Hello, and welcome to The New Aging. My name is John Robinson. I am a clinical psychologist with a second doctorate in ministry. I studied with Matthew Fox. I am an ordained interfaith minister, the author of 9 books and numerous articles on the psychology, spirituality, and mysticism of the New Aging, and a frequent speaker at conscious aging conferences across the country. You can learn more about my work at www.johnrobinson.org. But I'm also a guy who's getting old. And I see the handwriting on the wall and it says, old guy, okay? And not want to go silently into the dark night. I decided to find out what this new aging experience was all about. And what I learned is amazing. And as you'll see, I am really excited about this work and I want to share it with your folks. So the workshop I'm proposing for SDI is called The New Aging: Gifts, Transformations, and Sacred Activism. And here's the idea. We elders are living in an extraordinary and unprecedented time. For nearly all of recorded history, only 1 in 10 people could ever hope to be the age of 65. When Thomas Jefferson was around, half the country was under the age of 16. The average lifespan in 1900 was 45. But with the medical, dietary, and technological advances of the last 50 to 100 years, nearly 80% of us in developing countries will live to be 65. And if we get to 65, we have another 16 years on the average for men and 19 years for women. What was once reserved for only a tiny fraction of people, no wonder elders were revered, really, in indigenous cultures, is increasingly available to all of us. It's sometimes called the third age. But what is this revolution in longevity all about? Isn't aging just about getting old and falling apart and waiting to die, waiting now longer than ever? Well, the answer I've heard from elders from across the country, from hundreds of elders across the country, is a resounding no. Aging is becoming a time of profound psychological, spiritual, and mystical transformation, growth, and evolution. Indeed, my generation of elders, and I'm 72, so I know whereof I speak, has actually begun to experience a new developmental stage in the human life cycle. I mean, think of that, a new developmental stage in the human life cycle. I still find that astounding. And I believe we are also beginning to experience a new kind of aging, unlike anything our ancestors ever knew. But it's also clear that this new aging is occurring in an historical time of shocking and escalating social and political disruption. But I think this combination of events, this new conscious aging and this large-scale disruption, is creating radical new possibilities for sacred activism. What Joanna Macy calls the great turning. Big things are happening in the world today, and in our country, and in our aging population. I've been researching and writing about this new aging for 20 years, and the conclusions I've reached are really breathtaking. So here's what I want to share with you. I want to talk about the spiritual and mystical nature of the new aging and its 3 amazing secrets that will both revolutionize our aging and transform our culture. The secrets tell us that aging now is an initiation into an entirely new dimension of human life and consciousness. That it's also a transformation of self and consciousness, including the awakening of the divine in human consciousness. It's absolutely amazing. And thirdly, a revelation of a sacred earth right where we are, the unmasking of the divine world prophesied by mystics for millennia. Now, if this doesn't get your attention and interest, I don't know what will, but let's move on. I also want to talk about how conscious elders are becoming sacred activists and what that really means, especially as we begin to understand the varieties of activism, which include social, political, religious, spiritual, and mystical. And all these varieties of activism have different dynamics and possibilities to them. So this creates a really important set of questions around discernment. In other words, where do I fit? What kind of activism brings me alive? And what are the gifts now blossoming on the spiritual tree of my life? These are incredibly important questions for us to discover in this new time. And finally, I want participants to experience the spiritual and mystical dimensions of the new aging and their relevance to this new activism. I want them to experience it through exercises, journaling, and sharing. So, in conclusion, 76 million baby boomers began to turn 65 in 2011. Okay, 10,000 people a day for 20 years. And they will live longer on the average than any previous generation in history, creating a new stage of human life. I believe spiritual directors need to understand and support the psychospiritual forces transforming our older clients because they can be confusing and unsettling at times. Aging, in effect, is enlightenment in slow motion, okay? It's not what we think it is. It's not what it used to be. It's something brand new, and we need to understand it. And I think spiritual directors also need to explore and want to explore their own experience of conscious aging because it has so much to offer us. In other words, though aging has long been portrayed as a grim and depressing scourge at the end of life, I mean, for good historical reasons, of course, this new aging can be a time of our ultimate spiritual flowering. The divine human is waking up in us. Will we understand what that means and what it asks? So I hope you found this introductory material as interesting and exciting as I do, and that you'll hear more about it next March. So thank you for your time. I look forward to hearing from you. Goodbye.